I'm back in presentation mode, team.
We can see something, but it's not full presentation mode.
Okay, thank you.
To accept the recording, everyone would need to either come off mute or come off camera, or basically you need to click something on your screen to be able to show that you're there to verify, and then we'll be able to share the slides again. So if everyone could just sort of make some action, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, I can see that now, Fiona.
Yeah, no worries. All good. Thank you, everyone.
We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of lands on which we meet today and pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. We extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today.
Thank you. We've got a lot of people still joining.
Feel free to add your questions to the chat and we will address them during the Q&A session. And at the end of the session, a lucky door prize winner would be announced. I will now hand over to WiCyS Australia President Anita to share more about some of the upcoming events.
Thank you so much, Divya. Before we make a start, I thought I might just give some background with regards to WiCyS. First of all, WiCyS, the way that it's actually pronounced is meant to reference We Cyber Sisters, and that's how they also came up with the WiCyS pronunciation. WiCyS is a global organisation that was established in 2014. It has about 10,000 members worldwide across approximately 80 countries. And that also consists of having approximately 60 student chapters established across universities around the globe. We do have some very exciting upcoming events. First of all, our coffee catch-ups are very, very popular. That's where I always say you walk away with a golden nugget with regards to getting advice from other professionals that are in the field or are entering the field. So I strongly recommend you look out for that on our LinkedIn page, and we have them being held on the 19th of September in all those states, Sydney, Adelaide, and then in Canberra towards the end of September. More importantly, the upcoming ASA conference that's being held on the 26th and 28th of November. If you are a member of WiCyS, we are very fortunate in that approximately 40 of our members will have the opportunity to be given a free pass to the ASA conference. We're also going to have a stand there, so if you want to come and meet us in person and pick up some swag that arrives from the US, please come by and let's take some photos together and have some good conversations. Thank you, Fiona.
Okay, over to you, Jane. I'm on the wrong screen. Here we go.
Thank you. Thanks, Anita. Thanks, Fiona. Tonight, WiCyS Australia is excited to collaborate with the Decipher Bureau to bring you this event. Decipher Bureau was established in 2014 and is Australia's leading cybersecurity and technology risk recruitment company. They have specialist consultants who operate out of offices in Brisbane, Sydney, Canberra, and Melbourne. Their clientele includes the Fortune 500 companies, ASX listed organisations, and specialist businesses. The team at Decipher Bureau help these organisations with permanent recruitment and temporary workforce solutions to suit their specific needs. It is my pleasure to introduce two passionate individuals from the Decipher Bureau team who have volunteered their time tonight to help us prepare and normalise the conversations we have about salary. So first, I'd like to introduce Jasmine. Jasmine McCrudden is a community-driven cybersecurity recruitment consultant. She worked with Australia's top cyber professionals to help match talent to the right opportunities. Jasmine is a senior consultant at Decipher Bureau. She also is ACE's New South Wales Executive Committee lead. You will often see Jasmine organising, running or speaking at meetups and events like this one tonight. Jasmine's approach is driven by her passion for uplifting women in the industry and her desire to help individuals progress in their careers while bridging the skills shortage gap. Joining Jasmine tonight is Matt Dunham. Matt is the Managing Director and founder of Decipher Bureau and has been immersed in security since 2002. Matt has spent the past 2 decades recruiting and advising firms in Australia around the world. During his time, Matt's hired everyone from analysts to chief information security officers of global banks. He's also built government-cleared SOC teams, incident response SWAT teams, and security architecture teams. Matt is well known in the industry as a leader in security recruitment and professional services, and he continues to be excited to the rapidly evolving world of cybersecurity. Welcome, Jasmine and Matt.
Thank you, Jane, for the introduction. I think we'll stay on the intro page because I just want to quickly introduce. But yeah, love the model shots. Thanks for showing those. I'm Jasmine. Thank you for the intro. I've been in recruitment for 3 years. Previous to that, I was in the telecom industry for 7 years. At one stage, I was selling cybersecurity audit plans to business customers during the COVID pandemic, which was quite an interesting time. And now I'm at Decipher Bureau, 7 months in, loving it. As mentioned, the largest and longest standing specialist cybersecurity recruitment agency. We've got 10 cybersecurity recruiters across Australia in the team. Matt and I are in New South Wales, located in Sydney. Yeah, something I wanted to preface was that we're an external recruitment agency and we get engaged to fill the roles that companies, I guess, can't fill, the more complex, the more niche technical cyber roles. And unfortunately, it means we don't necessarily get to fill some of those entry-level roles. However, we have had occasions where we have been engaged. Matt, did you want to jump in at all?
Yeah, sure. I'm coming in a little bit as an 11th hour stand-in, but hopefully I'll do Paul Jenkins justice, who's currently lying down on his sickbed. Yeah, I've been focused now here in Australia on cybersecurity recruitment for 20 or so years. There was a bit of a gap, I think, about 10 years ago. I left the organisation I was working in because they were trying to focus more on professional services. And I thought that it would be a good idea to just really have a business that tried to help the cybersecurity community to hire talent, the right talent, quickly, fairly, in terms of salary and so forth. And so, yes, I've been doing it ever since. And now, like Jazz said, there's 10 of us across 3 locations and it's busy.
We'll jump into the next slide. And yeah, just a big thanks to WiCyS for having us here tonight to talk about this topic. We know that the audience really wants to hear about it. As recruiters, we speak to cybersecurity professionals every day and thought it would be important to share some important insights to help navigate the salary conversation and understand what salaries really look like in cybersecurity. Here are the talking points. So we'll start off with transitioning into cyber, then speak about current salaries we are seeing. Then we'll go over salaries for entry level and then salary progression throughout your career, navigating the salary conversation, interview tips and tricks, and we'll have Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat line and we will go over them at the end. We'll jump into the next one. Perfect. So transitioning into cybersecurity, the way we see it, we see students or graduates land a graduate role or an internship. Hiring managers look for these backgrounds, tertiary education. So whether it's like a computer science degree, a Bachelor of Cybersecurity, or a Bachelor of Information Technology. We also see people transition from other careers, IT and non-IT, which is quite interesting. We've seen people that have like moved from mechanical engineering, some people that have been nurses because they care about people, and security is all about looking after people and their information. And I guess I just wanted to highlight, if you are looking at an entry level role and taking your current career skill sets into security. There's some entry-level certifications and micro-credential courses you can take up. CompTIA Security Plus is a big one for entry level. There's also Coursera, which you can do little quick courses. They've got like Google Cloud Security and other bits. The Institute of Applied Technology is an awesome one. I was actually at their site recently. You can actually go in for an 8-week intensive course where you get a credential at the end. So whether you want to learn about a security operations center environment, you get to go into a real life SOC setup and actually type on the keyboard and have the big screens up. They've got like a boardroom where you can practice board presentations, which is a big thing as you move into cybersecurity in the leadership space. Check out the website. It's got some really cool stuff there. And I know WiCyS also has access to other training and development programs as well. And I wanted to highlight that there's people that come from no cyber background and just land in cyber. Like I know someone who started at a big four consultancy, and they signed up as a BA to start in a BA program of work, and he landed in a cyber program accidentally, and they said, look, are you interested in this? He said yes, and then they put him to work, and he actually outdid the people with cyber backgrounds. So some people we see just land in the role, and I think finding out what roles there are out there is important. Finding out what you're passionate about, because if you don't enjoy what you do, why are you doing it every day? Attend industry events, so one like these webinars, and then we've got CyberCon coming up at the end of the year. Learn Python if you want to get into that more techie cyber role. That will be like a secret weapon, and ask for a mentor. Most people in the industry are happy to support others coming in, so that they can have more teams and access to resources. CTFs, capture the flag, that's what they're called. For the more techie people, that's some, I guess, tech setups that you can go to where you code on a computer and you have to try and capture the flag. I've heard that's a lot of fun. I have no clue how to do it, but I've watched people do it. It's amazing. I've actually asked to sit behind someone and they said no, because it's all a secret game. But people in this industry are very easy to talk to. That's one thing I've learned. And I think the hardest part is actually taking that first step. There's just so much information out there. I think don't hold yourself back. Just start talking, start engaging, and learn along the way. I'm still learning a lot in this industry, and I've been in it for a while. But yeah, Matt, is there anything you want to add around that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I find it fascinating. The no cyber background I see quite often now. There's quite a lot of roles in cyber that don't require one to be massively technical. There's a number of governance focused roles that, you see people from a legal background. There's quite a number of lawyers now that we see move across. There is, Anita and I were talking about privacy earlier. There's quite a lot of crossover there in between the privacy and cyber world, and people that are legal eagles that perhaps find some of their day-to-day not particularly enthralling. They may find that becoming more involved in cyber is somewhat more interesting. So we see a bit of that. This whole the world of capture the flag, just talking about that. I mean, if anyone is ever interested in finding out more about what that's all about, I'd recommend going down to WiCyS in Canberra. That'll be later on in the year. So I think it's typically around October time from memory. Last year, there were over 900 participants in their Capture the Flag competition, which for someone who's not particularly technical, I don't know whether they wanted me to look behind their backs or not, but I was sneaking around and having a look at what they were doing on their screens. And it was fascinating, beyond me, but fascinating. Anyway. Back over to you, Jazz.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I guess what we're seeing in the industry at the moment is that 17% of Australia's cybersecurity workforce are women, according to the ISC2 report. I just checked Seek this week, and I can see that there's 1,700 jobs in cybersecurity. Take that with a grain of salt, because there are some overlaps of roles. And then also security engineers are the most in-demand jobs within the cybersecurity industry for 2024. We've got to the left-hand side a salary guide that we supply to clients when they are looking to recruit and understanding what the market rates are. Matt, did you want to jump in and go over any of that?
Oh, yeah. To be honest with you, my screen's not big enough for me to actually read half of that data. It's late in the day, but yeah, look, we're working on a new salary guide as we speak. I think it's interesting. One of the things that I would say is that, as you can see, there's quite a list of roles there, and there's quite a variety. But like security engineers, for example, it may well be the most in-demand job title, but one person's engineer might be another person's architect. Like there's different levels and different types of engineers, and there's quite a broad spectrum of roles. Sometimes we may be looking for a chief information security officer, for example, and if we were to advertise for a CISO, that role would get a massive response within a day or two, over 100 people. But the candidates that are responding have quite a diverse set of skills, and only one or two of them might be, because of the nuance of the roles, only one of two of them might be relevant. But anyway, yes, there lots of opportunity, as Jazz has put here, with 1,765 jobs currently there on Seek. I guess the devil is in the detail, and there's a lot of interesting roles there that you can read about.
Yeah, awesome. I will jump into the next one. What do salaries look like for entry level? We've got a few different titles here on what we see entry level roles look like, even though they don't scream cyber. They are stepping stones into more cybersecurity specific roles. Matt, are you seeing these type of salaries for entry level roles?
Yeah, look, I think in terms of where we get involved, typically organisations wouldn't necessarily engage us for a graduate with no industry experience. The larger organisations, the CyberCXs of this world, or some of the international security kind of boutique organisations, NCC Group have what they call a next generation talent program. Typically, those organisations may ask us to find someone who's a graduate with, let's say, 6 to 12 months experience, and at that point, we would see salaries of probably 65 to 75 plus super, and then obviously it really is some of the highly technical folk. In some instances, there was one candidate that went into that next generation talent program. They had 6 months experience, that they were hired at 80k plus super. They passed what should have been a 6-month program within 3 months, and then got promoted again 6 months later, because they're just an absolute whiz. And before long they went into a bank, and now they're doing the next level of role again, because the highly technical security roles really have a meteoric rise. But typically these like systems administration roles, and then people going into site reliability engineering, we kind of see that path. But yeah, a number of people go through help desk or support, and then get an interest in security, and show that to their the security leader, and from there they kind of migrate across and into the kind of realms of cybersecurity, in my experience.
And we'll hop into the next slide, which is, what does that salary progression look like once you've landed that role? I just want you to keep in mind that progression doesn't always happen in a linear path. What I've listed here is, for example, a security consultant after 1 year will make 90k, and then after 2 years there'll be a pay rise to 110k, and then three years 130, and you can see how the progression goes on from there. An analyst might be making a little bit more than a consultant, because they might be a little bit more involved in the technical aspect of the role. But then we see analysts move into engineering roles, and that will, after the first year is 120, and after 3 years it's 150 plus, and then it keeps going on from there. We generally see security engineers move into security architect positions. After 2 years, that's 190K base, and then 4 years, 220 base plus super. And then architects that are sort of building the security from the ground up will then sort of move into head of cyber roles or information security leads and start managing their own teams. From entry level to leadership roles, we can see that this is happening anywhere between 5 years to 10 plus years of working in the industry. You are able to apply for your CISM cert. That's the Certified Information Security Manager certification. We see a lot of people that move into leadership roles with this cert. And the only way you can obtain that is if you've had a minimum of 5 years professional information security management or experience in the industry. So quite interesting insight there. Matt, is there anything you want to add?
Oh, I mean, my main thing that I observe is just so you see this rise of the first 2 or 3 years, so that there's a kind of stable path, and then you kind of get to this 4 or 5 years worth of experience, and then people that have really gathered a load of knowledge and experience and are obviously showing the I guess the determination to do more. You can see some really meteoric rises, right? So yeah, like you said about the linear path, like it may be quite stable for most people 1, 2, and 3 years, and then year 4 sometimes you just see people go off the charts, and then with 5 years experience they're who knows where. And that's all about, I guess, well, there's got to be skill, but there's determination and effort and all those good things that go with it. But no, that's probably what I would say about that.
Yeah, 100%. We'll jump into the next one. Yeah, navigating the salary conversation. I guess we'll jump into the next one that really unpacks it. But we wanted to highlight this because we know some people may have trouble navigating the conversation when you're in your current role and you're looking for a pay rise, especially if you're feeling that you're paid below market rate. Most of the time, the employer would actually be willing to pay you more just to keep you motivated or productive in your current position, especially when they don't want to run the risk of losing you. Because from where we see it, it can cost a lot more money to replace you in your current role. The other side of this conversation is navigating the conversation around receiving an offer and navigating and negotiating the salary that you're worth. I've heard stories about women in the industry not being confident to own their number, hence why I feel passionate about this topic. I've certainly been in this position myself and learned this lesson over time. It's funny that we're talking about this event because last year at WiCyS, I actually met one of the WiCyS volunteers who ended up being headhunted from the industry event just by making contacts, and later on she landed her first role in cybersecurity. What happened was they offered her the role at 80K. She contacted me and said, I actually thought it was 80K plus super, but it's come back saying 180K including super. And she didn't want to run the risk of losing the opportunity because it was her first foot in the door into the role. But I coached her around that, saying you need to know what you're worth and sort of validate that. And the hiring manager actually turned around and apologized for getting that mixed up and gave her the plus super. So this is where we're sort of missing that conversation, and you need to understand what you're worth. I've listed a few things here to consider when you're in this situation. I think it's really important to do your market research. So speak to recruiters like us. We've got those salary guides there. It's also different depending on what region you're in. So New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria tend to have varying salaries. You can use resources like Glassdoor. Job ads will actually list how much they're paying, industry reports. It's also really important to check the company that you are landing that job with, and understand the company's compensation structure. If you have maxed out on their budget, sometimes there isn't any wiggle room, and it's good to understand that. But I think if you really like the role and you can see that there's potential progression plans to make more money in the role, I think sometimes it's worthwhile coming in, working in the team that you actually want to work in, and then have that natural progression in the position. Another point is that self-assessment. So looking back, evaluating your contributions, accomplishments, and how they align to the company's goals. Prepare a list of your key achievements, certifications, and explain why you're worth that little bit more. I think that will go a long way. I also always mention to anyone I'm recruiting for my roles, I'm biased about them selecting the role that I have them represented for, but I always say don't have all your options in one basket. I think it's important to feel out the market, understand what roles are out there, make more of an informed decision on the role, and just say you got an offer, but it's 10K less than another role that's offered you 10K more, but you like this role more. It might be worth saying, hey, I've actually received an offer from another company offering me more. However, I am more interested in your role, but I'm interested to see what you can do here. And sometimes they will match. We see it. So something to keep in mind. Matt, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think, like you say, having an understanding of your worth by conducting that self-assessment. Again, the top point, market research. I mean, we have our own idea within the organisation where, because we regularly do monthly checks on who we've hired and what salaries came in at and so forth. So we kind of got that consistent gauge. But we can also, obviously, we look on Seek and we can type in, whatever it might be, security analyst level 3, and there'll be 100 of them on Seek, and X amount of them will have the budget. So knowing what the industry pays before you go in and understanding your worth based on your experience is important. And like you're saying, there was a point earlier about if you are being underpaid and you're thinking of leaving and so forth, we're talking about counter offers and so forth. No one wants to lose a valued member from their team, because the time it takes to recruit, train someone, get them up to speed in the way that you do things and so forth, it would be far more beneficial for the employer or team leader, manager, whatever it is, to pay someone what they're worth, or the $10,000 or $15,000 it might be, then go without that person being there in that role for 2 or 3 months whilst they try and find a replacement, and then get them up to speed for another 2 or 3 months. So yeah.
We'll jump into the next one because time is flying today. I actually did a really interesting LinkedIn post the other week around what my network thinks about salaries for women in cybersecurity. I only had 119 votes, but it's just interesting to see the insights that came out of it. That 4% I asked, are women getting overpaid? And we had 4% say yes. The other part, 26% said that they're getting paid market rate. Interesting figure to see 32% saying not paid enough. And I do want to mention the not paid enough. Most of those were women. And the not sure part, again, it means we just want to remove that pay secrecy and normalize talking about salary, hence why we're here today. I do want to also mention that for entry-level roles, we are usually seeing everyone start at the same point. So we're not seeing any discrepancies around that. We do see that happen over time. So just something to keep in mind. We'll jump into the next one because I know a lot of you are probably keen to hear about interview tips and tricks. I'll speed through this because we don't have too much time, but one thing I would recommend is understanding the role that you're interviewing for. It's surprising to see how many people interview for roles and know nothing about what they're interviewing for. Preparation is key. It's what separates a good candidate from a great candidate. So research the role and research the company. Tell us about yourself, a very generic question, but it is a trick question. I would suggest choosing something unique and relevant to the role in that experience. Some people say I enjoy participating in capture the flag competitions. These challenges keep my skills sharp and allows me to stay updated with the latest hacking techniques. So I know it's more technical, but now you get the gist of what that question's really asking. STAR method, this is something that we tell every one of our candidates that we put through interviews. It's really easy to take the interviewer off course when you're speaking about a particular example in your experience. So we have this framework that you follow where it talks about the situation, the tasks that need to be performed, the action you took, and the result that came from it. It'll keep your responses to an open question in an interview format really sharp, very concise, and to the point. And that is what they're looking for in the interview. I've listed a tool, so Google Interview Warm-Up. If you just jump on Google and type this, there's a little AI tool where you can practice interview questions and responding, and the AI will capture the words that you use and recommend others. Really cool. Test that out. Positive psychology is something really important that I reference in interview preparation. If they ask you a question like, have you ever implemented this risk framework, rather than saying, oh no, I haven't, it's about using really positive psychology and saying, look, like, I've actually researched this framework. I understand that you've got to go through this, that, and the other. And then it'll just showcase that you've got that can-do attitude and that knowledge that you have. So that's usually what I recommend. The big question at the end, I'll say, why do you want to work for us? Again, trick question. If you just say, I want this for myself and it looks like a good role and all that stuff, it's not talking about the company. So think about it. If it was your business and you were interviewing someone for your company, you would want someone to list the products and services that you sell to show that you actually researched what they do. That's another trick question. And what have you learnt? Really important. I know a lot of people list certifications on the front page, and we hear this from hiring managers all the time, is that people will list the certs and studies that they've done, and then they'll ask about what they learned, and people fail to meet the mark, and that's where you've lost the interviewer. So something really important to make sure you know your CV back to front, because they will pick apart anything. I've got a little quick game that I wanted you guys to play and get involved in. It's more of an interactive one. I've got an elevator pitch. I've got A and B. So respond with A or B if you think that's the right answer. So A is, I'm interested in your role as I am looking to make more money and think the industry is cool. I've heard good things about your company and it will look great on my CV. B, I am genuinely passionate about cybersecurity, helping people, and excited about the possibility of contributing to your team. I believe my proactive approach and dedication to continuous learning will be a great addition. I'm seeing some of the answers come through.
Thanks, Jasmine. We're getting a lot of Bs, a lot of uptakes on Bs.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm glad I'm not seeing any A's. That was kind of a very obvious one, but just going to show how interviewers are seeing these kind of responses in an interview format, and yeah, just things to stay clear of. But I mean, Matt, is there anything else you want to add to that before we jump into questions?
I think we've covered the most of it, to be perfectly honest with you. Jazz, you've done an excellent job. Yeah, thanks everyone for listening.
All right, who wants to ask some questions?
I have been watching the questions. Sorry, Kevin here, Communications Director with WiCyS Australia. And we've got a few questions in the chat. One from Samantha, which is the highest thumbed up question. So we're going to go with that one to start. Samantha read an article on LinkedIn recently that cyber jobs have declined in Australia. Is that your experience? Are you seeing a decline in cyber jobs? And if so, do you have any insight as to why that might be the case?
I was actually reading that article today because, I mean, we're fortunate and we're very busy, but we have had busier months with roles coming in, and I think this is a result of what we're seeing in the economy with inflation and financial factors, not only just affecting cyber, but lots of different industries. And that means that heads of security managers, when they're going through their budgets, they have less to play with and less roles to bring on. So I guess that's the perspective we're seeing with some of our clients. I don't know, Matt, are you seeing anything else?
Oh, no, I mean, to be honest, someone sent me that article. I haven't had a chance to read it because I've been too busy trying to fill all the roles that are on my desk. Sounds like a silly answer, but it seems extremely busy. There are less roles on being advertised on Seek and LinkedIn, yes, but it doesn't seem to have trickled through to affect us. We're swamped.
Yeah, insightful. I think, and everybody is feeling that as well. It's affecting not just cyber, but kind of across the industry. There's a really interesting question here from G that just came in on the chat, and I really like it. If you don't mind, G, I might rephrase the question a little bit. But this person is feeling the effect of layoffs and job cuts and a difficult economic climate. And they're asking, they've put a huge amount, over 80 applications in the past few days. And they're wondering, is there something that this person can add in that might help them stand out, might put them a cut above, or maybe if there's an alternative way to seek a new role other than what we know, the usual applying on LinkedIn, Seek, and so on?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. What we're seeing, because we post our own ads and we see some of the same people apply for multiple listings that we have. And unfortunately, that cannot be a good sign. It means that you're just trying to spray your CV and land anything that you can get. Be very specific. I think once you take a step back and really reflect where your skill sets are and what value you can add to a role, take a moment to look at the roles. And I know this is going to take a bit of extra time, but don't use the same CV for every ad. Adapt that CV to the role, because from a recruitment point of view, we'll have hundreds of applications for a role, and we won't always have all the time to get through all of them. So we'll jump in and we'll code up CVs that have all the relevant tech that the client needs in order for this person to be successful. So if you don't list that, even if you haven't had the experience with it, if you've had the exposure or you've learned about it, list it in there. I think that'll go a long way, as well as I always make time for people that reach out to me directly and say, hey, I've applied for your role. Can you either give me some feedback on my application, or can we have a quick chat? And I will always make time for those people. And sometimes they're hidden gems because it's something I might have missed. So I hope that this works. And by the way, with the ad at the end, you'll see the email address of people to contact, or you can connect with them on LinkedIn and just say, hey, look, I've applied. I think it'd be great for this. Are you open to a coffee or a 5-minute phone call? I'm XYZ, good for this role. That's probably what I would recommend. Anything from your side, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, the CV is one thing. Improving or aligning one's LinkedIn profile just to make sure that kind of echoes what the CV says. I mean, beyond sending out applications, particularly in cyber now, we were talking earlier. There's quite a number of meetups and conferences and so forth, and it would be really good for someone to get out there if you're looking for a role, rubbing shoulders with people, connecting with people, building your professional network, just chatting with people, because what's on paper is one thing, but you meet someone at whatever conference it might be and you click with them, and that could be a route into your next job. So I definitely encourage networking in that way. And then, as Jess said, making sure you tailor your CVs, because people can read things and miss things, and it can be hard. I mean, we focus on security and there's a team of us, but we don't always pick that person straight away. And then you might meet them and start talking with that individual, and all of a sudden they start explaining more about what they actually do, and say, you're exactly perfect for this role. So I wouldn't just go down that route of sending out CVs. I'd use LinkedIn, I'd use meetups, I'd expand my network and so forth.
Excellent, Matt. And on that topic, watch this space. We have WiCyS coffee mornings coming up across Australia, Melbourne, Sydney, even Canberra. Yeah, so
Exactly.
do watch this space.
That's it.
But
That's exactly it. Yeah. come and network. That's how you make connections. That's how you get jobs.
100%. And that's how I ended up doing some stuff with WiCyS. I actually met Fiona at a coffee, I think over a year ago, and now we're here. So yeah, they make a difference.
Yeah. And Jasmine and I met at ASA. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. He walked up to me with a glass of champagne and said, I know you. And then we were chatting.
Yeah, it all works. Yeah.
Brilliant. I think that those dates, it's now stay in touch with us, but I think it's the 19th and the 26th of September. So follow along for more excellent advice, Jasmine, as well on tailoring and curating your application specifically for the role. And then following up is excellent advice as well. I'll probably only ask one more question, and then I might ask what's the best way to stay in touch with both of you guys. There's a few questions come in that are on slightly diverse topics, as a mother succeeding, things about gender pay gap, and closing those. So to try and kind of wrap those up in one question, what are the common obstacles you're seeing women facing in cybersecurity in terms of either getting into the industry or advancing, and just some thoughts on how to overcome those?
Yeah, this is a really important question because I think sometimes it's just back to knowing your worth and knowing what value you can add. I think some people don't know how to sort of communicate that. So I think find a mentor, find someone you can bounce off who you are, because sometimes talking about ourselves is the hardest thing to do, and it helps when you have someone that can communicate your worth and where your skill sets and where your value add is. So I think that there's so many strong, capable women out there that sometimes are missing out on opportunities that they're probably worth. Like I recently placed a senior security engineer. She was on 130 base and I ended up getting her 185, and that's a massive salary jump. And at first she didn't really know where she sat, but she actually went into this interview and blew all the men out of the park. And so we're in a position to negotiate that salary a bit more. So I guess, yeah, just really reflecting on what value you can add and communicating with other women in the industry as well, just to give yourself that extra boost. I think that's my 2 cents. Matt, do you want to add anything?
Oh, look, I'd probably echo all of the above. Again, we spoke about AWSN earlier. I think there's some really strong mentors within that cohort that people could engage with. Obviously, there is at WiCyS as well. So don't be afraid to talk to other people to get advice and support. Talk to me, talk to Jasmine, and professionals in the recruitment industry who can advise and support as well. I mean, there are a lot of organisations that are really trying to improve their ratio, and it's in their interest to engage more women. So there's definitely opportunities out there. I just think you need to be confident, and like you say, know your worth.
Absolutely. Thank you both. That's really inspiring, actually. So for me personally, I love a poll and I love a salary guide. Anytime I see a salary guide, I'm always straight into my work group chat and comparing notes. So I know you guys are working on producing one at the minute. So what's the best way to stay in touch with you guys and follow along for advice from yourselves, Jasmine and Matt, and also from Decipher Bureau?
Des, do you want to go first?
Well, yeah, if you jump on our website, you can actually request for a salary guide. So once we have an updated one, we will definitely spray it on LinkedIn. But we will send it out individually. So reach out to us and we can share that. I don't know if you have any other words to add.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're on LinkedIn, so Matt Dunham or Jasmine McCrudden. Our email address is at decipherbureau.com. Yeah, get in touch with if apply through the website. It's still being worked on. It's meant to be released in July. Unfortunately, we're missing the boat, and it's probably going to be more like September. There's quite a lot of information to collate, but we are going to get it out soon.
That's great. Thank you both. So we're all done with questions. So I'm going to pass on to is it Jane or Fiona next? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. Thank you, Kev. I think it's a great segue into our next section of our event tonight. So I'd like to introduce our president of WiCyS Australia, Fiona Burns. This is probably her last event, so we'd really love to thank her for contributing to WiCyS and all that she's done. But tonight, Fiona is actually going to bring you some insight and findings into the recent gender pay gap that was conducted in Australia. Over to you, Fiona. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And yeah, as we all periodically move into new roles or, look for opportunities for career progression, don't let self-doubt be your enemy. And, at every level, and I can tell you, it doesn't matter how senior you are or where you are on your cybersecurity career journey, self-doubt will creep in. And it just don't let it be your enemy. Choose to surround yourself with positive, like-minded people who will give you the emotional boost that you need to find your worth. And one of the great initiatives by the Australian government that kicked off late last year and has really found its feet this year is the gender pay gap. Off the back of analysis and policy change that happened in Europe last year, Australia has followed suit. And this is just a short presentation to help you understand the value of this government initiative. So for those who aren't familiar with the gender pay gap, just to give you a little bit of an understanding, although it's addressing an inequality that we do see in Australia for females, it's not predominantly about the female pay gap. It is about diversity as a whole, but it's also ensuring that men and women who are performing the same role are paid the same amount. It's about equity. It's about making sure that the same role, same responsibility equates to the same pay equality. And the analysis that's been published in February this year, off the back of the research that was conducted by the Australian government, they found that 50% of employers have a gender pay gap of over 9.1% in favour of men. The median remuneration gender pay gap is 19%. So that's across all industries. It's not specific to any industry type. And 30%, so the good news, 30% of employers have a gender pay gap within plus or minus 5%. So there is actually only 70% of the industry that really needs to focus in on the gender pay gap. And the purpose of publishing gender pay results for Australian companies of 100 employees or more is to drive that change. By calling out and making this information public, and it's all publicly available, it's driving change and agenda in the workforce. So as you're looking for your next career opportunity and you're getting to a position where you need to talk about salary, it's good to educate yourself. The more information you have at hand, the more you understand about your value and your value within the industry and how each employer views the gender pay gap, what their current position is, will arm you to have the right conversations and also arm you perhaps to look at certain employers over others. And as I've mentioned before, this is all publicly available information. So how do you access this information so that you are better armed to have these conversations? So the WGEA.gov.au website is your place to start. So this is a very quick 6-step guide to get you to the information you need to arm yourself for your next conversation. I think most of us here are probably tech savvy, so finding your way through to this will be pretty straightforward to navigate once you get to that site. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a visual on what you're looking for and where you'll end up. So once you complete these 6 steps, you should find yourself at the Data Explorer. This is your landing page for getting a really good overview of the Australian workforce and the overall gender pay gap. So everyone's needs are different. You know, some of us may be looking for primarily IT, maybe looking for cybersecurity. You may be looking for something very different in the Australian industry, workforce industry. So obviously you want to tailor this for your needs, but a good place to start is employer results. And once you get to employer results, you can actually refine your reporting query. There are no parameters here. It's all pretty straightforward. So once you go to employer results, you can actually choose by employee. So what we know across the whole Australian workforce, we have a median total remuneration gender pay gap of 19% between males and females. If we look at the whole cohort of the Australian workforce, it's very interesting to see that at the bottom level, at the lower quartile of salary ranges, there is a large percentage of women. But the gender pay gap is actually working in our favour across all industries at that lower quartile level. This is good news. Good news for women who are entering the workforce now. I think for some of the things that we're seeing at the higher end of the salary ranges, the upper quartile, where we can see that the salary balance is in favour of males at that upper quartile, could be systemic and generational. It is also reflective of the volume of women in senior executive roles in Australia. So because of the lower percentage of women in these roles, we're not seeing it reflected for us in a gender pay gap in our favour. So just some of the things to keep in mind, and this is called out on the website, on the WGEA website. So I thought it would be worthwhile for us to take a look at some of the primary cybersecurity employers in Australia and what their current gender pay gap looks like. So we can see with CyberCX, who are an Australian company, Australian cybersecurity company, they actually have a fairly reasonable distribution of equity at their lower quartile. So we can see 41% of their workforce is women at the lower quartile and 59% males. So there's actually good distribution at the lower quartile level, which we would expect to see with entry-level roles. However, across the board, their median gender pay gap is 28.2%, which is quite a fair way over the median of 19% across Australian workforce. So they've got a lot of work to do and maybe something to consider. Conversely, could be something that they're addressing and it may work in your favour as part of negotiation. But however, going into negotiation and knowing that and being able to talk about that and maybe asking the question to a CyberCX interviewer, what is their position? And what are there any programs and plans in place within CyberCX to address that could certainly, and certainly, it's all about how you position that discussion, could certainly show that you are someone who does their homework. Tesserae, another very prominent cyber employer, is sitting at 17.1%. IBM, 14.4%. And Microsoft, a very healthy 9.7%. Look, still a long way to go. It's a journey that we're all invested in, males and females, because I think, at the end of the day, we've all got mortgages to pay. We're all part of, general, partnerships, male, female, and every other, type of partnership in life that we have out there who we love, and we all have bills to pay and mortgages to pay, and we're all invested in males and females being paid equally. So with that, we probably don't have a lot of time for questions, but I could probably take one if there's anything coming through, Jane, that you'd like us to address.
Nothing on the chat, but if anyone does have one, if you could quickly put it through in the chat. Otherwise, I think in the interest of time, we've got 2 minutes left.
Done well, done really well. And I just wanted to open
opportunities. Sorry, I'm not sure if that's a question, Samantha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I mean, I would like to see how I can get into internships.
Yeah. I think that might be a question we might have to address with you offline. If you want to contact us, Samantha, feel free to, and we can help you there. But we've got 2 minutes left, and Beth, I'd like to just hand it over to you now.
Sure, thanks, Jane. I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone for joining tonight, our WiCyS event. It's been great to have you all, and for all of your wonderful questions. It's been really insightful. A massive thanks to our presenters, Jasmine and Matt. We really appreciate your insights and time taken. I'm sure the community is really grateful as well. It's just really great discussions that we've been able to have tonight, and hopefully can continue to have. Also, big thanks to Fiona. Again, another really important topic, and lots of questions were coming through on that gender pay gap discussion. So yeah, really great that we've been able to cover that tonight, and look forward to continuing to have those discussions. As we mentioned at the beginning, we have a Lucky Door prize. So the Lucky Door prize being a winner of a free WiCyS membership for the year. We are pleased and excited to share that the winner of this is Samata. Thank you for your questions and contributions tonight. We can be in contact with you over LinkedIn. Otherwise, please email us. I'll put the email in the chat. But congratulations, and we look forward to having you join us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That's perfect timing. Well done, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at the next event.
See you.
And at the coffee morning.
Bye, everyone. It's been so wonderful working with you all. Thank you so much. Great to finish on this high. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all that you've done and contributed, Fiona. It's been great having you part of the team, and sad to see you go.
I'll be watching from afar and wishing you well.
Thanks again, Matt and Jasmine. We'll be connecting offline with you again.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, team. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.